Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Our NC Radio. I'm your host, David. This is episode 1 of the podcast. I appreciate y'all making time in your day, your commute to work, your evening to join me to discuss the topics that are important to you, the listener. I created this podcast as a labor of love, as a kind of a public service, because I had a really difficult time, and maybe I'm alone in this, maybe y'all can feel me out. It was really difficult to find information on the issues that were local, super local to Forsyth County. I live in Louisville, North Carolina, Forsyth County. I lived in Ardmore, downtown Winston previously. And we just went through an election cycle a couple weeks ago, and we voted for, of course, the President of the United States and governor and some of the senators and everything like that. And when it got down to the bottom of the ballot, there was very little information on the individuals that were running in these really hyper-localized areas. And I was really curious, why is that? Why are we not talking about what's going on in our neighborhood, our neck of the woods? And so that's kind of what spurred me to do a lot of research, but also share that research with y'all. And, I feel like if I'm going through the effort to, get more involved in the community, get more educated with what's going on as far as different town councils, city councils, county commissioners, that kind of thing, then I want to share with other people, because I believe a community that's better informed, educated, and involved is just a better community overall. I've got a 21-month-old little girl who is the most amazing person I think I've ever met in my entire life. And I'm very passionate about, not only doing the best I can for her right now, but helping to cultivate a community and, an area there where she can grow up safely and potentially stick around and raise, her children here. And part of that is getting involved in, the issues that are affecting us day to day, and not just standing by the sideline and, kind of throwing your hands up and be like, I wish it would be better. I wish they would make better decisions, that kind of thing. It's really, it's kind of up to us as citizens to take the initiative and let our voices be heard. And I feel like, I'm going to do my part by sharing the information that I learn with everybody else, with all you. So my goal and vision with RNC Radio is to kind of be that must listen to podcast for anybody living in Forsyth County. I want to cover more than just issues, news topics, that kind of thing, but also, what fun events are going on in the area? Where can I bring my family? Are there any good new restaurants for me to check out? Are there any new up and coming neighborhoods or parks opening up, or maybe some nefarious things that may be going on that we're not really paying attention to, some political type stuff that maybe is going on at a local level that, you may want to actually kind of pay attention to what's going on here, and here. That's really the goal of the podcast. And I want this to be about us, not necessarily about me. Certainly, I want to be a mouthpiece for the community. I want to get a little bit more involved. And like I said, it's for the betterment of the community as a whole. The more educated we are, the more we know about what's going on, the people that are in power, and what they're doing on our behalf, the better our community is going to be, and the more transparent everything is going to be. And so I welcome you to the first episode of the podcast. Appreciate y'all joining me here. It is the weekend after Thanksgiving. I hope y'all had a great Thanksgiving. I know I had a nice one. I stayed up pretty much all night, smoking a brisket for the first time. If y'all have ever done that before, you know it's a pretty long process. It was like 14 and a half hour smoke. And then, of course, you let the meat rest, and it turned out really good. Electric smoker, so it wasn't like, didn't have that nice bark, but I'm getting sidetracked a little bit, as I tend to do. But I just wanted to kind of say that, and I wanted to, wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Kind of getting into the end of the year. Christmas is coming up, Hanukkah, all kinds of different holidays and everything like that. So I hope everybody's having a good time with loved ones and is staying safe and staying warm out there. I want to cover a couple of events this week. That's how this episode is going to go. I'm going to be talking about a couple of things that are definitely hot topics within Winston-Salem, Forsyth County. And then I'm also going to kind of give you a little bit more information on how you can get involved in the show moving forward and kind of what to expect in the coming weeks and months from the podcast. I'm going to start off by just kind of giving you an open invitation. If you are interested in bringing something up that you would like covered in the show, this is about you. This is about Forsyth County. This is about kind of our area. Please send me an email, or if you'd like to call in and voice your opinion on something that we maybe are talking about on the show or want to bring up something for discussion, there is a voicemail line as well. So let me give you those. Give you a second to go get your pen and paper or pull up your note app on your phone. All right, our voicemail line is area code 704-762-1099. Again, that's 704-762-1099. That's where you can call, leave a voicemail. That was the closest I could get as far as a Google number is concerned for Forsyth County, so I get that it's not a 336 area code, but it's close enough. I'll be able to listen to that, and I could probably even play that back on air if it's a good question and it garners more discussion. Great. I definitely would love to hear from you. And then also, if you prefer text, my email address is ourncradio. That's OURNCRADIO@gmail.com. It's not just about any news or some kind of grudge that you maybe hold with like a town council member or something like that. That's not really what this is all about. It's about more than just, politics and stuff like that. It's, if you have an event that's going on, maybe your church is doing some kind of get together that is going to benefit people that are in need this time of year, and you want to call for volunteers or action. If you know of a really fun event that's maybe open for friends and for family to come over, and families to come over and participate and kind of do something with young kids. Maybe it's an indoor activity since it is so cold. Just some examples, but let me know what's kind of going on. And hopefully I'll cover most everything so everybody's kind of caught up to date with what they're able to go do with their family, and all the things that are important to us as citizens here in Forsyth County. Now, moving on to probably the biggest story in the last week, and that is the walkout by the bus drivers for Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools. If y'all are not aware of kind of what's going on, there was over 20 bus drivers last Monday that decided not to show up for work, and obviously that has a pretty big impact on day-to-day life for parents and families. Kids aren't able to go to school, and that's a pretty big story, at least here locally, and I want to cover that. I want to talk about that with you and kind of fill you in on the whole backstory around why that happened, what it is that the bus drivers are bringing up as far as their main issues, and where that stems from, and then what's the plan moving forward. And also, I want to give you an opportunity to go and let your voice be heard. I'm going to tell you, If you want to go speak with the school board, the superintendent, all that kind of stuff, or be involved in that discussion, I'm going to tell you exactly what to do next. But let's start with the why. Why is this happening? Well, there are two main issues that are facing our bus drivers here in Forsyth County. The first issue would be pay. And I know this is kind of a common theme. Whenever you hear something school related, where there's some kind of a grievance, some kind of a threat of a strike or a walkout, it's usually around money, and this is no different. The pay for bus drivers currently as it stands is just over $16 an hour. Now, that is kind of regardless of tenure. Okay, so whether you are a bus driver brand new or you are a bus driver that's been doing the job for over 20 years, doesn't really matter. You're still going to be making around 16 bucks an hour. That's very low. Obviously, it's very low. And why is that? Are these people doing the job just kind of folks that kind of came off the street, or are they licensed? Are they good at their job? What is it? Well, it turns out that bus drivers have to have a commercial driver's license. To work for the county, you have to go through a background check. And so these are not just folks that are off the street that are just kind of thrown into a bus. They're qualified, very qualified. They're very, not only qualified, but the bigger issue that's kind of coming up is the work conditions. So they're not only qualified, intelligent individuals, they're doing a great service for our kids in the community, but they were also really putting their own personal situation in a backseat to do something that's good for everyone, which is taking care of kids. And that deserves to be applauded and commended, because there is a lot of jobs in Forsyth County with a commercial driver's license that you can go and get that pay you a lot more than just 16 bucks an hour. Let's be honest. And even without a commercial driver's license, you can go and be a manager at Sheetz and you can make $16.50. So obviously bus drivers are not there just for the money, but given everything that they have to put up with and the important role that they play in the education system for public schools, it stands to be pretty justifiable that they would want to raise, especially given the cost of goods has gone up so much. I mean, obviously, cost of gas, cost of groceries, cost of everything has really gone up quite a lot. And I won't get into that too much, but obviously it stems from a lot of things that are going on outside of the county. So that's issue number one. Issue number two is the working conditions. Now, I'm not a bus driver. I do not have a kid in public school here in Forsyth County. As I said earlier, my daughter is not even 2 years old. So I had to go and take a look at kind of what's being reported from the bus driver side. What are the issues at hand? And they say, there was an article that WXII did covering this. It's like a very short article, like a 1-minute video. I'm not surprised, because that's kind of like how local things are covered here with the news stations. They had mentioned that the bus drivers are not happy with pay, but also working conditions. And they cite a couple instances where students and bus drivers get into like kind of an altercation, and also parents following buses and getting into an altercation with the driver. So that's what they had reported. I wanted to take it a little bit of a step further. And so I went on Facebook, the craziness that is Facebook these days. And I asked for the opinion of somebody that maybe had a little bit more of an intimate understanding of the situation. And I did get a couple of responses, which was fantastic. So if you are listening, thank you so much for responding to my request. And I'm going to share with you a little bit more insight around those working conditions. Now, these are not conditions where, like, folks show up and they're asked to do, really anything crazy. They're doing their job like you would typically think a bus driver would be doing. However, there's interactions that are happening where kids, especially kids that are a little bit older, like, high school, that are abusing these bus drivers. And I can definitely empathize with that, because as a father of a young child, and we've got a dog too, so a lot of times my little one is in the back seat, the dog maybe is in the back seat too, and she starts freaking out. I mean, maybe she dropped something, or she's hungry or thirsty or whatever. When you're driving a car and you've got that going on in the back seat, it's very difficult to pay attention to kind of what's going on in front of you. I could not imagine if I was a bus driver driving a 50-foot long bus. I've got not just one kid to worry about, but I've got maybe dozens of kids to worry about, and they're all acting a fool, and I've got to drive through. We don't have brand new streets everywhere here in Winston-Salem. Let's be real. There's a lot of kind of tight corners and traffic and all these things you got to navigate. They're very stressful, and that's what bus drivers have to deal with on a daily basis. And I understand that's kind of your job, but also it's not your job when it kind of gets to that extreme level. There was an instance that was mentioned to me in a private Facebook message, where a child spit on the bus driver and physically abused the bus driver. Also, parents that got on the bus and kind of got into altercations. And as a bus driver, you're kind of caught in the middle trying to keep the peace, and you're not on school property. So given that there are police officers at some schools to kind of make sure nothing bad happens to your kids, when they're on a bus and they're out way away on their route, there isn't that protection. So it's really the bus driver is the only representation for the school. So what do you do? How do you fix that situation? But obviously, as you can tell from some of these stories, there's some major concerns regarding pay and working conditions for these drivers. So I don't blame them for taking this level of action. And this is not anything new. This is something that has been an area of concern and has been raised to the school board and the superintendents multiple times over the last few years. So this is more of a culmination of these instances, this lack of pay that is finally coming to a head, and we're seeing the result of that inaction from the school board. Now, there was a statement put out by the superintendent and the school board saying that there are things that they're looking to do and that they feel like they can increase driver pay by moving some things around in their budget. And they're kind of put on the spot and put in a dire situation. And I think that's part of doing this walkout is like you're being left to a very you're being left in the middle of school year to kind of figure this out. They have to do this immediately because you cannot have hundreds of kids unable to go to school or putting that additional pressure on the parents that maybe can't do it because they have work, they have other commitments. So it's a really sticky situation, and they are pressed to kind of make this happen. Okay, so where do we go from here? Okay, what happens next? Well, as I'm speaking to you, it is the first Sunday, and according to Tricia McManus, who is the current superintendent of Forsyth County Schools, there will be 2 meetings, December 10th and December 13th. There is nothing to state that this is public or private meetings. So I may have an update on my Facebook page. If you are not involved on the Our NC Radio Facebook group, I have set that up. Go ahead and join. It's a little bit easier to set up that as it is a business page. I'm certainly planning and working on setting up a dedicated Facebook page so you can go ahead and post on there as well, and I can post some updates to the stories that we're talking about. That is what happens next. There is rumors that there is room for things in the budget to kind of increase pay, and there are policies that are being enacted to make it safer. Obviously, not enough has been done, so that's why we have this walkout. But stay tuned, because this is probably the biggest issue that's happening right now within Forsyth County, at least within the last couple of weeks. And I know we had an election, and there's a lot of things we could talk about as far as elected officials and that kind of thing local to the area, and I'm going to get to that. I'm also going to get to the biggest projects that are happening within each town, such as like Kernersville and Louisville and Clemens and all that. But regarding this story and this topic, that's kind of the next step, is early December, having those meetings between the school superintendent and the bus drivers, understanding their concerns and getting a plan in place to fix it. So stay tuned as far as that story is concerned. All right, moving on to a couple of lighter topics. As I mentioned earlier, I want to incorporate things that are going on, but I also want to incorporate, more family style, more family oriented events and that kind of thing that are happening here within Forsyth County. So I want to call out two specific ones. The first one is great for a young one. If you've got a kid that is 10 years old and under, or if you're a stay-at-home parent like myself, the Transportation Museum, it's not in Forsyth, it's just south of Forsyth in Salisbury, North Carolina, but it's maybe like a 30-40 minute drive, really not that bad. Transportation Museum has something going on right now called the Polar Express. And if you're familiar with the movie with Tom Hanks, big smash hit, especially this time of year. I think a lot of people are probably watching that right now. They have a officially licensed like Polar Express type train car and experience that you can go and pay and do. It's only for specific dates, but the Transportation Museum has all of the decorations, and they have some food trucks out there. They have some really cool things to go and see. I went with my daughter, and this was not a planned trip. This was a completely random trip. Drove down to Salisbury, went to the Transportation Museum. We didn't have tickets for Polar Express or anything like that, but I'll tell you, she had a total blast. I would highly recommend and go and check out the Transportation Museum. On our way kind of through the area, you can go up and you can see the whole Polar Express setup. You can see the train car that they kind of did to look like that Polar Express train car and engine and everything. She had so much fun. And I'm sure it's even more so now, because that was several weeks ago. Now that the event's actually going on, I'm sure they have all kinds of stuff that makes it look very Christmassy, very fun, very festive. And I would suggest you go do that with your kids. That it's awesome. Unfortunately, the tickets to the Polar Express are sold out. I went on their website, I checked. You can't get any more. And they even say that there are people like scalping and ripping people off. So I don't even try it just now. So if you're going after 4 o'clock, Transportation Museum is now kind of shifted towards the Polar Express event. So I wouldn't worry about that. But like I said, if you're a stay-at-home parent, you want to do something with your kids, go check it out. It is so cool. Vintage trains, planes, fire trucks, motorcycles, military equipment from the last like 150 years. It's pretty cool. Getting into another event, which probably a little bit more for everybody is going to be, and it's in Forsyth County, is obviously Tanglewood Festival of Lights. For those of you that have lived in Winston for a long enough time, you know the Festival of Lights, it happens every year. It is over at Tanglewood Park in Clemens. You go in with your car, and Tanglewood is a pretty big place, pretty big property, and they have everything all done up. You can see all kinds of cool like lights, and they have music playing too. But you go up, you pay $20, you go in your car, maybe 4 or 5 of you, get some hot chocolate, you drive around, you look at the lights. It's a fun time. I know that it's kind of a zoo during the weekends. It's a little crazy. But I would definitely recommend you checking that out if you haven't done that before. It's a really fun time, especially with your kids and everything. It's a nice little, it's like one of those bucket lists, like, okay, every year we got to go do Festival of Lights. A lot of people kind of believe that. So I would recommend you trying that out. I did notice that they also have like a hot chocolate bar and a setup from like Lowe's Foods that's kind of doing some things. They have like some fire pits and maybe s'mores and that kind of thing going on halfway. So check it out. Festival of Lights. That's another thing that you can do as far as family-oriented events in the area. And yeah, that's it. This was mainly an opportunity for us to kind of get acquainted. I wanted to introduce myself and also the reason behind making this podcast. And I wanted to kind of get started in soliciting your help in talking about these issues, talking about the things that are important to you. And so that's what I'm hoping to do in this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And I certainly do look forward to the next episode, the next time that we can be together. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear your thoughts on this episode. Was it good? Was it not so good? Were there things that you feel like could be added that you'd like to hear from on a regular basis? That's what I'm looking for as far as feedback from you. And looking forward into the future, there's a lot of plans, a lot of things that I want to get into, but I will leave that for the next time that we are able to be together. I thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate it. And I hope you all have a wonderful evening, a wonderful holiday season, and I will speak with you before not too long. Thanks a lot.